Hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, the playoffs are in full swing in football and now just getting started in volleyball. And that is, of course, why we are here to get you up to speed on all of those big games.
That's what we do. We cover 11 classes of football between the Dakotas. And now there's just 44 teams remaining, and we'll touch on each and every semifinal game that's coming up this Saturday and Friday night. And we'll give you a current playoff picture in volleyball as well.
Yeah, with that, we'll start in North Dakota's biggest class. If these two matchups are anything like the regular season contests, we are in for a treat. And Minot, the Magicians, take on Bismarck Friday night at 7. The last time these two faced off was on October 7th at Dwayne Carlson Stadium. And it was the Demons who handed the Magi their first and only conference loss by a score of 14-7. Now, that game was full of turnovers, and it was Bismarck who rose to the challenge in the fourth quarter with two big takeaways. And with that, let's hear from the Demons about this upcoming matchup with Minot.
You know, it's going to be a tough atmosphere. Minot's a tough team. They're big, they're physical. We got to play without any mistakes.
They got everything you need, and they're at home, and I'm sure they can't wait to get us. But I know one thing, we'll show up and play and see what happens.
All right, with all that said, Jason, what are the keys to this game?
Well, needless to say, both teams have to take care of the football.
Yes.
That was the problem last time around. But I think this game is won on the ground. Lucas Butts and that physical Bismarck line is going against Manny Bradford and Minot's much bigger offensive line. On a side note, though, Bismarck has won 9 of the last 10 times they've played Minot. The last time the Demons lost in this series, it was in the semifinals back in 2014. Both teams right now really hungry to get back to that state title opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Should be a good one. Minot's made it to the title game 2 years in a row, while Bismarck last qualified for the big game in 2013. All right, well, let's move to the other half of the bracket now. The defending champion Century Patriots travel to number 1 West Fargo. This one obviously should be a very good one as well. They met back on September 2nd in the bowl where the Packers took a 19-16 decision. That was the only game all season that West Fargo's opponent has been within 20 points of the Packers. Can we expect that again, or what should we watch for?
They're not used to being in close games. I think this one will be, though. This game, though, what really stands out for me is the defensive backfields. Both of them tremendous. West Fargo has Alessandro Genova with 6 picks on the year, Jake Faircloth with 5 interceptions, and on the other side, Cade Lynch leads the state in interceptions for Century. It'll be easy to point to turnovers as a key in this game. I think if either team tests each other's defensive backfield too much, it could spell doom, so look for a lot of running in this football game.
Yeah, can't gamble too much at this point in the season, that's for sure. All right, well, let's move to Saturday's action in Class AA now. The Final Four set features 3 teams from the East and the top team from the West. Both games get underway with 3 o'clock starts. Let's begin here with the only unbeaten team, St. Mary's, as they host Hillsborough Central Valley. What will make the difference here?
Well, St. Mary's is going to be tough to beat, but the Burros, they really started this season slow. They lost to a Class A team out of the chute, and then they showed they're a legitimate Double-A team with some strong wins against Central Cass, Kindred, and then last week against Trinity. This is a very senior-heavy team that relies on plays from its quarterback, Austin Reed, and their big play receiver, Kyle Henningsgaard. All season long, those have been the 2 to go to. But this defense has also pitched 3 shutouts as well. Now, let's talk about that undefeated team now, the Saints. This team is a whole new level of tough teams to play against for the Burros. I think St. Mary's defense has been so dominant this year. They haven't even been involved in a close game for a while because this defense is so good. Look for Cole Spees, Kurt Dickout, and of course their quarterback Cole Gendrew to make big plays, all of them in double-digit touchdowns this year. It's going to be a tough game for the Burros to go against the Saints.
Bismarck St. Mary's not been challenged a whole lot this
Not
year,
yet.
so we'll see if the semifinals brings that for them. The other game, a rematch between Kindred and Shanley. The Deacons bested the Vikings 16-7 in a defensive affair back on September 30th. Currently on a 9-game winning streak entering the semifinal match.
Yeah, since that opener, Shanley hasn't given up more than 14 points in the game, so Kindred is going to have to find some creative ways to create offense. Head coach Matt Crane knows that running the ball and stopping the run is important, but he told me Ethan Lingen has really been throwing the ball well lately, especially in the last couple of weeks. So if they can find some lanes to throw, give him some time in the pocket, he has a chance to have a great game. Lingen has thrown for over 1,800 yards this year, 23 touchdowns, and they'll look to find their senior receiver, Brock Benson, maybe in some different positions. But on the other side of the ball, you've got a lot of firepower with Matt Bird. He went for 144 last time against Kindred on the ground, so he'll be important once again in this game.
All right, look forward to that one as well. Let's talk Class A now, and to help us break down this class, we bring in Sports Director of KSJB, Kyle Dean Patterson. Kyle, you called that big win by Ellendale Edgeley-Colum. What did they do that nobody else in the class had been able to do to Larimore to this point?
They always find a way to keep going after they get down or in the rough. So what they've been doing is still having a positive attitude. They have really put together a great team here at the end of the season and great plays, and they just want to keep rolling. And yeah, they have definitely a championship caliber team.
All right, thank you, Kyle. And you can listen to that game on Saturday on Jamestown Mix 93.3 in Langdon starting at 2 p.m. On the other side of the bracket, we have an interesting matchup between Delax Burlington, who beat Belva Sawyer 18-14, and Bishop Ryan, who knocked off Hazen 31-14.
Yeah, last time these two teams met, it was tremendous, 22-20. It was a win for DLB back on September 30th. The Lakers stopped the Lions on an attempt for a two-point conversion to tie the game with 20 seconds left. I don't see any reason why this time around won't be as good. DLB loves to throw the ball, while on the other side you see a ton of running. It's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see how this one plays out.
All right, to 9-man now, we've got a battle of unbeatens in Bismarck. Thompson's been a top of this class, or of your power rankings, I should say, all year. And Shiloh Christian has been in your top 3 all year. So now they get to meet in the semis. And, the way Thompson's been rolling, it's hard to pick against them.
It really is.
But Shiloh Christian's been that team that's been on the cusp of doing something special for a while, last few years.
It's almost too bad this isn't the championship game, because I feel like these two teams have really played the best ball in 9-man all year. Shiloh Christian coach Fanon Barker told me they're a little worried about the big playmaker at quarterback for Thompson in Kalen Schwabe. He is such an explosive player, but the Skyhawks are just going to try to control that clock, while Thompson's coach, Brady Schwab, thinks the key will be stopping Shiloh's power run game. The Tommies have really evolved on defense this year. They use a number of schemes. It's really hard to figure them out. Again, a back-and-forth game, and they both kind of hope to control the clock in this one, so look for another exciting 9-man matchup on this side of the bracket.
Good stuff. Going to be a fun weekend up in North Dakota. Make sure to tune into our podcast on Thursday as we break these games down in even more detail for you. And so stay tuned for that. Also stay tuned for the South Dakota preview of the semifinal round. That's coming up next here on Varsity Sports.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back. Time to take a tour through the semifinal matchups in South Dakota now. We're going to go from big to small, starting in Class 11 AAA. The first game of the day is a rematch between O'Gorman and Washington. We caught up with some of the Knights to get their take on the opportunity to play the Warriors on Friday night.
We're excited for our kids to have our opportunity to go out and earn a chance to go to a championship game and go through the best team in the state. And that's an opportunity we're ready for.
Well, that's the end goal, is always get back to the Dome, and they've had our number the last 3 games, and hopefully we're going to turn the tides this game and come out and beat them and get some revenge.
Clearly, Jason, the Knights ready for a little revenge.
They are
this
ready.
O'Gorman team at such a different place than they were in that Week 4 matchup against Washington. They lost that one 35-14.
Yeah, O'Gorman has shown consistent improvement throughout the season, but so has Washington. This Warrior team has scored at least 5 touchdowns in each game since that opener, where they only had 4 touchdowns, by the way. And the last couple of weeks, Seth Benson has picked up right where Jaden Johansson left off. By the way, Johansson ready to go for this one. And the quarterback on the other side, Hunter Thompson, he eased back into action last week. He really tried to limit his running, but he told us this week he is 100%, so look for both sides to be at full power.
And that's what we want to see at this time. You're going to see these teams at their best. All right, next game at the Woods going to feature Brandon Valley and Roosevelt in their regular season meeting. Both teams exploded in the first half, then dialed up some pretty good defense in the second. But Roosevelt did hang on to win that one 35-28. How do you see it playing out this time?
I think the pressure's on both defenses. They will be ready this time around to handle each other's offensive attack. Brandon Valley's defense and special teams has really been outstanding since that game. The last couple of weeks getting touchdowns on both offense, defense, special teams, so watch out for them. Roosevelt, on the other hand, they've been better defensively as well. They've got some playmakers. Jackson Clark had a pick 6 last week, and they're really zoned in on stopping those big receivers of the Brandon Valley Lynx. So you might look at that offensive side and look at all the flash, but it's going to be one on defense. We talked to the Lynx about this big matchup, and by the way, they are pumped up and ready for some redemption of themselves.
We've talked about it for weeks now, that they got a big chip on their shoulder, and nobody believes that we can beat a Sioux Falls team in Sioux Falls. So they'll be ready to play, and they'll have a big chip on their shoulder, and they'll be coming to play.
Let's move into Class 11 AA now, and these matchups, at least at first glance, don't look as competitive as some of the other classes. Am I wrong on that? Or
Yeah, it doesn't look that way, Jay. Pierre visited Mitchell just a couple weeks ago. Mitchell really dominated that game physically. In fact, every team you talk to that has played Mitchell in the last few weeks say they've been out really muscled and physical up front. So watch for them to really have a good game. Peyton Zabel really had his poorest game of the year. Don't expect that type of performance again from Zabel. On the other hand, you got Spearfish and Harrisburg. Again, on the outside, it looks like Harrisburg is the much better team here. They're coming off their most dominant performance of the year, 53-15 win over Yankton. But while that has been pretty impressive, Spearfish with their most dominant performance last week, a 47-19 win over Huron. So don't sleep on them, but Harrisburg looks like the clear favorite in this one.
And in Class 11A, we've got a couple of tasty matchups here, including the defending champion Madison Bulldogs, who have to travel west to play St. Thomas More. The Cavs have reeled off 10 wins in a row, but are now searching for a signature victory. And if they could pull it off this week, it would be exactly that.
I think it would qualify as that. Jake Andrew has been the team's leading rusher and receiver. He'll need a few big plays. Their quarterback, Preston Arity, he's been supplying big plays all season long. 26 passing touchdowns while hitting 67% of his passes. So he's been very solid. But they will have their hands full with Yankees on Friday. Jackson, Jaden, Riley. Those Yankees have combined for 30 touchdowns. Meanwhile, their leading scorer, receiving touchdown guy, Mason Layton, has put 12 of his own. Josh Giles.
Oh, hey, Josh Giles.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. 32 touchdowns of his own. So much firepower on this Madison team. It's going to be an exciting game. Who's going to put up the most plays? Who's going to play enough big play defense to stop the other team?
The other 11A game puts a rematch of T and Del Rapids.
Yeah, T has some confidence knowing that they can win some tight games. They had to fend off West Central last week, and they've had a couple other victories this year where they've really had to grind it out. Del Rapids, on the other hand, they're starting to roll. They're starting to put up some points. 35 points last week against a good Sioux Falls Christian team. So Dells will try to make this one an ugly game and try to grind out a victory against a really good team that they lost to. Got shut out last time, 19-0.
We faced them earlier in the year, and it was a pretty good game. They're a really good team, got a lot of talent, and we just got to do our thing. And we've talked all year about getting better each week and competing and focusing on the next game. And they're next, so we got to just keep working hard and keep getting better.
Coming up a little later, we're going to take a look at the volleyball playoffs, but next we'll finish our football preview in South Dakota as we look at 11B through 9B after this. And welcome back to Varsity Sports. Monday night, Class 11B and the 9-man classes played out the quarterfinals to set the stage for the semis, which are coming up this Saturday. And here now is a look at 11B.
Yeah, Winter had no problem. They got their 8th shutout. Huge win for them. They go up against Bridgewater Emory Ethan now, who had to grind out a 6-2 victory.
Ugh.
I think this could be a little closer than people think. Seahawks have played a really tough schedule at this point, but we all know Winter, the huge favorite in this one.
Yeah, the other semifinal game pits two rivals who know each other very well. Groton and Roncalli going to try to earn a spot at the Dakota Dome.
Yeah, these two teams don't like each other very much. We know that. Groton got the best of them last time around. Roncalli decimated with injuries, but they're going to try to hold it together. This is a big rivalry game.
And in Class 9AA, it's been an entertaining class, certainly, with a ton of strong teams. But one team we don't talk much about is Stanley County, who earned a 35-28 upset win over defending champion Woolsey Wessington. Now they get to go to Gregory.
Yeah, last year they got beat by Woolsey Wessington in the semis. We kind of forget about this team. Second trip in 2 years going to the semifinals, so that should be a fun game. We'll see if they're up to the challenge.
All right, Gregory, though, has been certainly the most consistent class to this point, so it's going to be a tough one against the Gorillas for sure. The next matchup between Baltic and Webster area, both of these teams just quietly keep on winning, Jace. They both got big wins against great competition on Monday. Webster beat Canastota. Baltic taking care of Mount Vernon Plankington.
You're exactly right. How about that? These two teams we probably didn't expect to be undefeated coming into the year. Both have great team senior leadership. Kelby Hawkins on one side, on the other side, Caden Wolf ripping it up for Baltic. You're going to have a lot of seniors on the field with a lot of power. It's going to be a very close game, one of the best games of the day, I think.
In Class 9A, all the top seeds advance to the semis. First game we'll look at is Coleman Egan and Potter County. Potter County, of course, used a late game rally to beat Hanson, so they're still unbeaten. They face off now with Coleman Egan, who just has one loss on the year. That came 41-40 to Bonham.
Yeah, Battler's a very balanced team, and they've been a great second-half team. Tanner Storr has been their electric back, 10 yards per carry on the year. On the other side, Bodie Gruss really doing a great job for Coleman Egan. He spreads the ball around. They've got a lot of guys they can go to. And, yeah, quietly, just the one loss this year by 1 point to a very good 9AA team. Coleman Egan could be a surprise team in this bracket.
The other half of the bracket features two very good teams, Sully Buttes, who made it to the finals last year, and Warner, who I know you think is the best team in this class.
Yeah, Sully Buttes has done great to this point, but they run into a wall right now. I think Warner, the strongest team in the class. They even beat up on Langford. I know they were down Lincoln Gibbs that game, but a 44-6 win, that was convincing. And then in the playoffs, taking out Castlewood and then taking out Scotland very easily. I think Warner is definitely a team to beat here.
All right, finally in 9B, again, all the higher seeds advance. At 5 o'clock Mountain Time, Harding County will have their hands full with those Langford area Lions.
Yeah, by the way, Harding County gets a home game this time. This is a rematch of the Dome game last year. That home field advantage will mean a lot. On the other hand, Langford, Lincoln Gibbs banged up a little bit again. We'll see if he goes. He is a huge linchpin on the success of this Langford Lions team. It's going to be terrific.
And the next matchup, Cologne comes in red hot against undefeated Corsica Stickney.
Yeah, exactly. I think Cologne, just that one loss at the beginning of the year, to Corsica Stickney, a very close game the first time around. Again, I think this is one of the best rematches we have in all of these semifinal round. Both teams have a lot of playmakers. Look for Clayton Menning to have a big game for Corsica Stickney. Cologne on a roll right now.
There's a look at our semifinal preview. And remember, go to our Midco SM podcast on Thursday for more details on all of those matchups. All right, well, the postseason also underway in high school volleyball, and we've already seen the number one team in South Dakota tumble. We'll have more on that after this.
It's very, very big, and I've been telling the girls if we can get a win tonight, the road to state is definitely a lot easier. I mean, I'll give it to Brandon. They played a great match. They fought and they clawed, but we had a little bit of revenge on our mind. We went to 5 with them in the first game of the year, and they were able to come back and win the last 3. So, great game tonight. I'm excited for Saturday.
All right, that is Kelly Schroeder, head coach of the Washington Warriors, Jason, and we are going to start talking some volleyball now. It's playoff time for them as well. And let's take a look now at the AA bracket.
Yeah, in the first round, Washington gets a 5-set win over Brandon in their home gym, so they get to play for a chance to go to state. And look who they're playing against.
Yeah, huge upset. Lincoln knocks off Harrisburg.
We didn't see that coming, did we?
In straight sets, too.
Lincoln came in with a losing streak. Harrisburg came in with a long winning streak, but you never know what's going to happen. 2 future Nebraska recruits heading it off against each other in Sammy Slaughter and Neska Zabo. Zabo 21 kills in that one. Huge win for them. And you see the rest of the bracket in Region 3. Big win for Pierre. So Mitchell has to play for their lives, do or die, coming up later as well. So you never know what's going to happen in the first round of AA playoffs.
That's why they play them, right?
That's why they play them.
All right, in North Dakota, the West Region Tournament starts next weekend, November 10th. For those teams to earn a spot at state, in the East, they get going on Tuesday, the 8th, playing games coming up starting this Friday. We'll bring you more on those matchups next week here on Varsity Sports. Well, stay tuned. Another playoff edition of Pick'em is coming up next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back. Time to make our picks on this next round of playoff Pick'em. Now I've got a 4-point lead coming into the week, so
tough to catch up.
Hopefully I can hang on. Let's start with a volleyball match. Lincoln coming off that big upset, traveling to Washington. Short trip.
2 teams playing their best right now. I got to take the team with the home gym advantage. Washington, when they get on a roll, are tough to beat. Lincoln, when they're focused, are tough to beat, but I'm taking the Warriors.
I like the Warriors, too. They won 4 of their last 5 to close the regular season. They did go to 5 against Brandon Valley to open district play, but I still think they get the win on their home floor. In South Dakota, semifinal football now. Good rematch here. Brandon Valley and Roosevelt. It was a 7-point game the first time.
Yeah, and Brandon had the lead deep into the second half. Have they learned enough to get the win? I have a feeling that the Lynx are going to pull one out here. I've had Roosevelt number 1 all year. I just have a feeling about the Lynx. I'm taking Brandon Valley.
I thought long and hard about this, too, because they were right there. They had the opportunity to win that game. I still think Roosevelt makes the adjustments from that first one. I think Roosevelt gets the win and moves on to the Dome. All right, in North Dakota, the AAA game, Century at West Fargo.
Yeah, I think Century is going to give West Fargo the best game they've had in a long time, but that West Fargo defense, too good. Century doesn't get enough pub for their defense, by the way. For the Packers, even better.
The best game they've had since the last time they played Century, right? 1916 on September 2nd. West Fargo, though, at home has been outstanding. They've been good all the way around, but outscoring their opponents at home by an average of 37-7. I don't think it'll be that kind of game, but I like the Packers on their home field. The other AAA semifinal, Bismarck at Minot. This one was a tight one as well.
Minot can come at you with 3 different backs, couple different receivers, too many different weapons. Bismarck, you pretty much know what you're going to get. I think that multiple weapons will win it for Minot.
You talked about it earlier, that marred by turnovers the first time they played. Too many mistakes by Minot, no question about that. I think Barry Holman and his group get things figured out, tuned up, ready to go. I don't think Minot allows Bismarck to beat them for a second time this season, so we both think Minot's going to win that one. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the games, everybody. Bring it back here Friday night for another edition of Varsity Sports Live.